J. Lewis level method acting. He did 2 serious dramas at this point, and the rest were comedies. He still had a lot of work to do to prove his dynamic range as an actor. Jonah was so determined to be taken seriously that he took a minimum salary of just $60,000 to play as Donnie alongside Leo DiCaprio in The Wolf of Wall Street. Not only did he know the movie would be a hit and help him build a new reputation in Hollywood, but he wanted to work with one of the greatest directors of all time, Martin Scorsese.
As far as Jonah Hill is concerned, yeah, I met him in Mexico, and he basically said to me, I know people like this. I know what these people represent in the culture. I've met people like this, and there's nobody on earth that should play this character except for me. I'm the man for this job. And I said, no, I hear you. He's like, no, you don't understand. This is my favorite script I have ever read in my life, and I'm destined to play this. So I immediately called Marty. I said, there's an actor out there that, really feels like they're the person with the job. And I think Marty met him a week later, and I heard it was one of the best meetings he'd ever had with an actor, and hired him kind of on the spot. And in a lot of ways, Jonah Hill set the tone for this film. I think he really is one of the most unbelievably talented improvisational actors I've ever gotten the opportunity to work with, and took scenes in directions that we never even thought possible.
Donnie is probably in contention with being Jonah's most memorable performance next to Superbad. Although Wolf of Wall Street is a comedy, Jonah approached the role with a level of commitment that went beyond just being the funny side character. He fully leaned into the world of the film, making you believe he truly was this desperate, greedy, power-hungry, twisted businessman who was constantly on hard drugs. But again, more fame and more attention from the media wanted to push him to his limits. Except this time, he would have to make a formal apology for his actions. On May 30th, 2014, Jonah Hill was walking through the streets of Los Angeles as 2 paparazzi followed him, filming him.
I like the shorts though, bro. They are pretty sexy.
For the next minute or so, they followed behind him, not saying much, but filming and taking pictures. Typical annoying paparazzi. However, at the end of the interaction, Jonah called the cameraman the homophobic F-slur.
Have a good day, enjoy. Oh, a real bully.
At the time, many of Jonah's fans defended him, suggesting the paparazzi were annoying stalkers. But Jonah decided to use some time on his Jimmy Fallon appearance to apologize for using the word.
I didn't mean it in a homophobic way. I think that doesn't matter. How you mean things doesn't matter. Words have weight and meaning. And the word I chose was grotesque. And, no one deserves to say or hear words like that. I've been a supporter of the LGBTQ community my entire life, and I completely let the members of that community and everybody else down when I used a word like that this weekend.
Apology accepted. He seemed to be very genuine. That was very responsible and mature of him. Instead of discussing his upcoming film, 22 Jump Street, many mainstream programs were refocused onto his controversy. When speaking with Howard Stern, Hill said, "I think I'm pretty good at making movies, but I am not good at being a famous person." After 22 Jump Street grossed over $330 million at the worldwide box office, Jonah Hill had officially stamped his legacy as one of the best comedic actors of the early 2000s and 2010s. It seemed like everything he was cast in became an absolute smash hit, but he still had moments where he felt like he had to call out disrespect from the media. In a confrontation live on French television, the female co-host made frequent references to Jonah Hill getting sodomized in his movie This Is the End. As he received the translations through an earpiece, the host continued with another joke about a fantasy she had about Hill, saying, "We would meet up in a hotel room at night. We would chat, you'd make me laugh, then all of a sudden, you'd bring your friends DiCaprio and Brad Pitt, and then you'd go away," implying that he was too unattractive for her to sleep with him. In response, Jonah said, "I'm glad I came on this show to get ridiculed by your local weather girl." It initially appeared that Jonah was simply laughing the joke off and sending friendly shots back, but his response was completely genuine, and after he canceled all future media appearances he was scheduled for in France. The interviewer eventually apologized on camera with the statement, "Jonah, the problem is that for 10 years I have lived with you through your films. In fact, Jonah, I really had the impression that I knew you. So last Friday I thought I was just messing around with a friend. But the reality is that we are not friends." This once again reinforces the friendly, buddy-buddy image a comedic actor is expected to maintain in the eyes of the general public. Jonah is expected to be able to take a joke at his expense and shoot the with anyone who feels like calling him fat or ugly, but when he cracks back or tries to correct them, he's the problem.
First of all, you smell good, which is surprising.
Why is that
I
surprising?
don't know. I just wouldn't think of a guy who would have a nice scent on. And it
That's
seems-
such a, like, I'm gonna really work hard to not take that as a shot. You know what I mean? Like, because I think you would smell nice.
The 2016 article best describes the sort of limbo that Jonah was stuck in. Despite establishing himself as a legitimate actor worthy of Oscar recognition, he was not taken seriously in the eyes of the public. The hilarious sidekick roles make up a numerically small but neon bright portion of Hill's career, and no number of contrasting performances can seem to override the public impression of him as a man who might, at any moment, start humping the furniture. Unfortunately for Jonah, the public's perception of him would never change. His desire for approval as a serious actor, paired with his inability to manage the stress of stardom, led him to moving away from the silver screen and stepping behind the camera, focusing more on writing and directing. His first major film he directed in 2018 was called Mid-90s, which was an awesome debut. It is a coming-of-age film about youth skateboard culture in Los Angeles in the 90s. It wasn't a box office banger, but most definitely a classic that I and many other skate fans thoroughly enjoyed. He hadn't stepped away from acting entirely, but his new focus allowed him to fade from the public view while remaining a part of the creative process he fell in love with. His shift in career direction also marked a willingness to be more open about his insecurities and the difficulty he faced early in his career.
I became famous in my late teens and then spent most of my young adult life listening to people say that I was fat and unattractive. And it's only in the last 4 years writing and directing my movie Mid-90s that I've started to understand how much that hurt. I really believe everyone has a snapshot of themselves from a time when they were young that they're ashamed of. For me, it's that 14-year-old overweight and unattractive kid who felt ugly to the world and wanted so badly to be accepted by this community of skaters.
However, even as he stepped away from the big screen, his physical appearance remained a topic in the press. The late 2010s were plagued with articles discussing Jonah's weight, and it appeared that there was nothing he could do without it being brought up. One of the best examples of this is the Daily Mail. It has been documented that Jonah had lost 40 pounds after he stopped drinking beer, a decision he made all the way back in 2016. The Daily Mail would consistently find ways to shoehorn this fact into any article they could, regardless of its relation. Jonah making a quick stop at the coffee shop, they wrote, he lost 40 pounds when he cut out beer in 2016. Surfing with some friends, they wrote, Jonah Hill pulls down his wetsuit in Malibu to show off his bare chest filled with several large tattoos after losing 40 pounds. And after years of this, Jonah responded to a 2021 Daily Mail article once again about his body while he was at the beach surfing. I don't think I ever took my shirt off in a pool until I was in my mid-30s, even in front of family and friends. Probably would have happened sooner if my childhood insecurities weren't exacerbated by years of public mockery about my body by press and interviewers. So the idea that the media tries to play me by stalking me while surfing and printing photos like this and it can't faze me anymore is dope. As tragic as Jonah's history of ridicule was, it was nice to see that he had finally made peace with himself and his image. He continued to embrace this new image with a body positivity tattoo and became a cultural symbol for self-love. However, this was a double-edged sword. It wasn't just negative comments that bothered Jonah, even positive comments about his appearance were deeply upsetting to him. I know you mean well, but I kindly ask you not to comment on my body. Good or bad, I want to politely let you know it's not helpful and doesn't feel good. Much respect. It was only a matter of time before all of this would compound, and Jonah would announce a departure from the public eye to manage and deal with what he describes as a 20-year battle with severe anxiety attacks. It was clear that Jonah had become much more vulnerable in the latter half of his career. He had spent years being ridiculed for one of his deepest insecurities, but was now exposing his most sensitive struggles for the world to see with new confidence. This was thanks in large part to his commitment to therapy and relationship with his therapist, Dr. Phil Stutz. Jonah was so deeply impacted by this that he documented himself attending real therapy sessions in a documentary titled Stutz. The film seeks to normalize therapy and introduce those who may be skeptical of the process. Dr. Stutz discusses a concept he describes as tools, which are essentially coping mechanisms and mental habits you can utilize in moments of stress and discomfort. These tools are the backbone of the documentary's narrative, and Jonah emphasizes their importance in helping him manage the many stresses of his life. However, it would come to light that Jonah hadn't entirely used these tools for good, and he would be accused of weaponizing the lessons he learned in therapy to control and manipulate his ex-girlfriend. Jonah Hill made viral headlines ends in July of 2023 when his ex-girlfriend Sarah Brady exposed text messages he had sent to her 2 years earlier, shortly after he revealed that he and his current girlfriend were having a child. Plain and simple, if you need surfing with men, boundaryless, inappropriate friendships with men, to model, to post pictures of yourself in a bathing suit, to post pictures, friendships with women who are in unstable places, and from your wild recent past beyond getting a lunch or coffee or something respectful, I am not the right partner for you. If these things bring you to a place of happiness, I support it and there will be no hard feelings. These are my boundaries for romantic partnership. My boundaries with you are based on the ways these actions have hurt our trust. Two things in particular stand out. Number one, Sarah is both a professional surfer and model, and Jonah specifically tries to restrict her ability to do those things to continue their relationship. It's also worth considering that Sarah had been doing both of these things prior to when the two started dating in 2021. Almost immediately into the relationship, Jonah began making subtle implications that he was uncomfortable with her lifestyle. He writes, "Oh, and modeling, which is the last profession I would be with as a partner." She replies, "Well, maybe you should have asked me more about what I do for work before you decided to date me then." Jonah replies, "Keep taking me for granted." He sarcastically continues, "Go model. It's a fulfilling life. You'll love it. Real depth and substance and sustainability for relationships. But actually, I'm done with this convo." Besides his seemingly insecure and petty attitude, much of the discussion was surrounding the usage of the word boundaries. Many felt as though Jonah was misusing the word entirely. On the surface, it sounds like he's being self-aware, like he's calmly communicating what he needs in a relationship and trying to avoid conflict. It frames him as someone who's being honest about difficult topics instead of lashing out or controlling someone outright, and that's what caused many men online to rush to his defense.
Yeah, he's insecure.
Yeah.
But like, he's not saying like you can't be a human being. He's like, I wish you well. I just personally don't want you posting your Instagram. I just personally don't want you going on these little surf dates with other men. I just personally don't want a partner that's gonna do that. And if you need to do that, you go for it. I wish you the best. You got it. But I can't have it.
I think he did a pretty good job. My boundaries are this. I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like that. Isn't that what we wanted? People to express themselves? People to be able to just say what they want? Not keep that inside? Not bottle up? That's what he did. Now, Sarah has a choice. To stay or to get. That's it.
However, others interpret Jonah's words entirely the opposite way. Instead of setting boundaries on his own behavior, he's outlining restrictions on hers, what she can wear, who she can be around, and even the career she had before they met. So while it's packaged as vulnerability and communication, it can also be interpreted as him attempting to pressure her into changing her lifestyle to surrender to his expectations. Sarah also shares a text conversation shortly after an argument. She voices her frustration at the restraint she feels in the relationship, noting that she was constantly trying to avoid an uncomfortable situation or argument. She looks for reassurance from him, describing her insecurity that he would eventually leave her. However, Jonah responded with hostility and passive aggressiveness. "You're right. We can't do surf social things or develop trust until you consider me and make decisions that give regard to our relationship. I have been as vulnerable as possible, and I'm telling you I am needing you to step up to the plate, which you can. I am sure of it. But these losers don't get your time if you want me. Straight up. It's consideration. If you want marriage and family, you can't use the 25 card. Step up and cut. These people don't get your time or your kindness at the sacrifice of minds." It was also revealed that Jonah was forcing Sarah to remove pictures or videos he found to be inappropriate from her social media, once again saying, "I've made my boundaries clear," and using degrading language like, "It's not my place to teach you." It appears that Jonah would constantly give Sarah an ultimatum: delete these pictures, don't hang out with these people, or you don't respect me and I'll break up with you. He consistently brings up that Sarah does not respect him when it doesn't read like he has much respect for her either. Take some accountability and operate with respect. It's that simple. F that contest, F that place, and F not respecting me in every situation within surf culture, or you don't get it and you don't get me. It's hurtful and unacceptable acceptable to me. All of this seriously begs the question why he would start dating someone who clearly doesn't live a lifestyle that conforms to his own. Why would he choose to date a bikini-wearing surfer with allegedly tons of toxic friends if they violated his boundaries? It came across to many that he was extremely insecure and trying to change a woman who he was likely not compatible with. Others that defend Jonah see this as nothing more than clear communication. He's being blunt and maybe a bit hostile, but he is angry and we all get angry. And others see his communication as calculated usage of therapy speak. Dude's a prime example of someone who learned just enough therapy speak to weaponize it against others. Jeez, you don't have boundaries, you're just a controlling act. This was easily the biggest controversy of Jonah's career, with countless media outlets labeling his behavior as abusive. However, even those who were opposed to the way Jonah was speaking to his girlfriend were quick to say that this was not abuse. Insecure? Yes. Rude? Yes. Toxic? Potentially, but not abuse. This created a PR disaster for Jonah, but he chose to stay silent in regards to the situation. However, he did respond through his lawyers after Zoe 101 actress Alexa Nicholas accused Jonah Hill of shoving her against a door and kissing her without her consent when she was 16 years old and he was 24. His attorney, Marty Singer, responded calling Alexa's accusations a complete fabrication, adding that it never happened and that she was a serial accuser who has made assorted accusations against multiple men in the entertainment industry. Jonah has continued his separation from the spotlight and hasn't made any form of public appearance since the call-out. Still to this day, most of what you see from him is paparazzi capturing photos of him on the streets of Los Angeles, still commenting on his weight loss whenever they see him looking different. He recently made headlines again after being pictured looking completely unrecognizable, although it's worth clarifying he was on set for a movie he's starring in. Jonah Hill's Hollywood legacy is a strange one. He's undeniably one of the iconic comedic actors of his generation, responsible for hilarious performances that have lasted decades, yet the conversation around him rarely stays focused on his work for long. It always drifts back to his body, his personality, his relationships, anything but the thing that made people pay attention to him in the first place. And no matter what version of himself he presents, there's always a reason to critique it. If he leans into comedy, he's unserious. If he tries to evolve, he's pretentious. If he speaks his mind, he's toxic. And if he stays quiet, he's guilty. And that's the uncomfortable reality of his career. To a lot of people, Jonah Hill just can't do anything right. But at least he gave the world some amazing comedy films. That stretch of early 2000s comedy movies was one of the greatest runs in history. But now, comedies are dead. But check out this video if you want to hear how that happened.
I didn't want to put him on blast for this, and now that I'm like,
So Rob, the thing is, like, that's what I'm saying. Islam is just the easiest punching bag for this situation. They don't want to get into the history. They don't want to say the difficult truth. What caused the hostage situation that lasted over 400 days? What cooked Jimmy Carter? You know, like Ronald Reagan has laid it up. It's really just the matter of fact that Islam is the easiest punching bag to kind of distract people from the real problem, which is the United States. MI6, all of these different intelligence corporations had gotten involved, or intelligence agencies got involved and started a problem they were never really able to put a cap on. We never put the fire out, and we're paying for it now today. And Trump's trying to put the fire out, but obviously the fire's got too big. You know, the fire's got too big to put out right away. So now half of our interceptor missiles in the region have now run dry. You know, did you see that today? There was a mainstream kind of wave of reports, narrative, and this whole narrative was titled "The Fact That the United States is Running Out of a Large Amount of Our Patriot Missile Interceptor Systems that are responsible for defending several other neighboring countries in the Gulf." So, you know, we created this issue. You know, we started it. And instead of trying to fix it diplomatically, like we kind of already had going at 16, we try to attack it head on, and that's proved to be pretty ineffective.
Yeah. His appearance, number one. Yep. And the comments that you made about Pahlavi, like, why hasn't this guy called me back? I want him on the show. Like, why? He's irrelevant. He's a clown.
Why hasn't he called me back? I had him on the show 2 times.
Yeah, but when you first invited
You know
him.
why? Do you know what happened there? He's asking for help. Because the interviewer, the Iranian interviewer that interviewed me, is asking me, are you going to help him? Are you going to help Reza Pahlavi? And we're speaking in Farsi and English. And I said, no. He asked me for help. I never heard back from him. But I made some very bad remarks about the guy. Have you heard what I've said about them?
No.
I don't know how you must not know how monarchists think of me right now.
No,
Do you know they can't stand me
wrong.
today?
Good.
No, it's not good. I liked his father. I don't think he's a strong leader.
He's not.
He was following me. His wife was following me. His daughter was
Right, but you liked his father, so.
following me. Everybody unfollowed. The monarchists attacked me because I called them. Oh, it is in shambles with me in that relationship, Rob. Maybe play a clip
That's
of what I said on the podcast if you want to play that.
That's a badge of
We're going to leave Iran and go. By the way, you know what's the biggest thing that Iranian people are saying? Hey, Reza Pahlavi, why don't you go to Azerbaijan and say a few words from there? Come closer to Iran. Show some stuff. He's not doing it. The one thing about Trump, let me tell you what was very crystal clear about Trump, about Milei, about Bukele. You know what it was? They're willing to do the legwork. They're willing to go out there. They're willing to pay a price. They're willing to drive. They're willing to work their tails off. It's very obvious. We, the market, said, who is this crazy Elvis-looking guy from Argentina? There's no way he'll ever win making out of people on stage. Guess what? He won, Size and Pat. Who is this
I know
Bukele
you
guy
have
that's in his
apologies.
early mid-30s? And by the way, let me give you what's going to be confusing. I have a painting of his dad in my house. So I'm a fan of his father. So this is not like a bash towards the family.
Bro, the dad was way worse.
Yeah.
Like,
He's referring to the previous Shah.
yeah, the one that
Iran,
got
guys,
kicked
if you're
out.
not familiar, from 53 to 53 to 79, Operation Ajax, the actual Islamic Revolution, and then now they're talking about Reza Pahlavi, who is the son of Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, who was the former leader of Iran before the whole regime change situation took place in 79.
This
So
right here.
just so if you guys are confused, because they have the same name,
Yeah.
so this gets confusing.
Here he is right here. This is the guy that got kicked out in
That was a former
1979.
leader.
He was a former leader, and this is the guy that privatized the oil industry, which the United States and England exploited and recognized. So the reason why England and the United States all work together with their intelligence agencies to get this guy out, put this guy in, is because he privatized the petroleum industry, which is what Mossadegh tried to not do. Mossadegh tried to nationalize it so the country would benefit from the resources. This guy comes in and privatizes it. These other countries make a bunch of money. The people don't see the benefit from their own resources. Private companies make all the profit. And he had a very brutal secret police called the Savak, who used to go out and torture and kill people that were critical of the government. And obviously, the United States, in exchange for putting him in power, they got the oil revenue and then got the benefit of being recognized. I think Iran was one of the first countries in the region to recognize Israel's sovereignty. So that's why it was involved, because they needed allies in the region. And in exchange, they got U.S. support. That's why they got the F-4s and the fighter jets that they have now. These all came from the Shah era, because this guy was pro-West. But yeah, dude, this dude completely betrayed his country, and this is why so many people hate the Shah, because he ended up just becoming a puppet for the West.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but yeah, we can go back to. But this is who my brother's talking about, and this is who EBD is talking about.
I was critical of him because for 47 years he's been talking about he wants to have Iran be free, and he didn't do it. And keep in mind, a part of me is, that's the painting of my house. That's a 15-foot painting. His father's right in the middle. My criticism is of him. But I was watching it. I'm like, why? Did somebody tell you I'm a Zionist?
Yeah.
Did you? Who's that?
It was in the chat. You
No,
see it.
but
I was reading the chat.
Did any other influencers that you go and do?
I mean, he is a Zionist. Why is he trying to like walk it back? Like, bro, you support it. Like,
Yeah.
you've been in, you support Adam Sosnick, your co-host, is a hardcore Zionist. You agree with him. You support the war. Like, you don't have to say I'm a Zionist for us to know that you're a Zionist. You support Zionist talking points. You support the state of. You had Netanyahu on the show. Like, you are a Zionist, my friend. You didn't ask him any tough questions.
Yeah, and the reason why it's easy to say that is because there's no neutrality when it comes to this topic in the Middle East. You either are against and their policy, you're against our foreign policy in support of it, and you viciously condemn that on a consistent basis, or you straddle the line and you're in favor of a war in Iran that does nothing except address the proxy situation that it has to deal with on a day-to-day basis when they try and violate the sovereignty of its neighbors. So it's really annoying and kind of frustrating when Patrick and David goes, well, I don't know why you're saying this to me like I'm a Zionist. Well, it's like, hey, because you don't do anything when it comes to condemnation of it. And they've exacerbated so many already pre-existing issues in the region. And now that we're at war with Iran, in the beginning, let's not act silly. We can pull up the clips. You, Vinny, and Adam were raving about how this is going to be a successful operation, and the United States is making an ultimately good decision, and we should get the Shah back in power. Maybe not Reza Pahlavi, but something like the Shah. Bring the Shah days back. So you got the guy framed in your house, right? So there's no secret that obviously your interests are parallel with interests. At the same time, you just so casually happen to hate Islam. And maybe you have never said that, but you never hesitate or skip the opportunity to take a dig at Islam to push your rhetoric further. And that's all the base of Zionist propaganda and Zionist talking points and Hasbar that you see every single day on Fox News and X and all the other outlets. So again, we are not saying you're a Zionist because you said on your show, unless he has. I don't think he's ever said it verbatim or explicitly that he's a Zionist, but it's really that his ideological centering is very similar to that of a Zionist. So it's not a derogatory term, it's not this degrading term. We're just calling what we see. It's just funny how he's getting defensive. However, I'd be surprised to see if he tries and denies it. So tries to deny it. So thank you so much for the $10.
Views with. Did anybody whisper to you off camera?
And then
Careful
also,
with Patrick is a Zionist.
After this, we gotta go back to the Randy Fine thing with the Hadith and he says something about like behind a rock or whatever. I want you to kind of explain that. We'll do Randy Fine after this. Yeah, go back to.
Several of the Duggar children have publicly distanced themselves from the church and their parents, the church being the teachings of IBLP, Bill Gothard. Bill Gothard, in my humble opinion, is like certified insane, and I mean zero offense to it. I grew up in a religious house, so I grapple with some level of religious trauma, and I still think that religion is an insanely beautiful thing, and I cast no judgment on anybody who is religious, but Bill Gothard makes my brain melt. He, in my opinion, ran a cult. Perhaps my definition of a cult is different from anybody else, but just from my limited research, I think that he was running a cult. And apparently, Bill Gothard would do this thing where if there is a stain on the carpet, he wanted young women in the church to get on their hands and knees and clean the stains out of the carpets with a rag or a spoon. So someone who used to work at the main church, he thought the stains were the problem, right? So he goes ahead and he cleans the carpet with industrial cleaner to get out all the stains. And like the young women, they would always be complaining because their backs were, aching from all the cleaning the carpet, which rightfully. And so they're so happy. To which, quote, Gothard visited the center and was livid to see no girls cleaning by hand. He ordered the center leadership staff to round some girls up to start cleaning. It was something that Gothard just wanted to see. He didn't care that I would come at night and industrially clean the carpet and get rid of all the stains. He wanted to see girls on their hands and knees scrubbing with rags and spoons. And I think that it was maybe a recruiting tactic. I imagine very specific types of people would walk in with their wives and their children and think, now this is a good God-fearing church. This is the type of example I want to set in my family. And the Duggar family were very, very close with Bill Gothard, and they followed his teachings quite literally to a T, such as Bill Gothard would state, when a young person listens to rock music, like a rock song, even a Christian rock song, they give Satan a little square in their soul. The soul is depicted like a chessboard, and you give up one of those squares to Satan. He's playing chess with his soul, and we're just trying to survive in this economy. He's also racist, in my opinion, okay? Jesus Christ, nobody is more seasoned assist happy than a religious cult leader, but I feel he is racist, and that's why he hates rock music. His teachings read, to the delinquency of minors, the characteristic offbeat in today's rock music has been traced to the satanic rituals in the jungles of West Africa. It was this type of drumbeat which certain tribe members were specifically trained for in order to open the people to demonic control. So you can't listen to rock music, but you also can't be a whore. And Bill Gothard's definition of a whore is showing a shoulder. If any sort of assault or bad thing happens to a woman, it's because a woman was showing a shoulder and leading men astray.
But is being pedophile okay with him?
That is natural curiosity, my friend. Just kidding. I'm trying to get another one. Okay, one leader of the IBLP teaching states, the problem is that men have a problem with their eyes. The solution is to avoid eye traps. The shorter the skirt, the more vicious the trap. So the solution, right, if you were to tell me that all men have a problem with their eyes, which is not what I'm saying at all, but if that were the case, then the most logical solution would be to blindfold all men or gouge out their eyes. That would make more sense in her logic, if that's the real problem. But instead, she says it's the women's fault. They have in the wisdom booklet, which is their teachings, pictures of women wearing various different outfits, and people are forced to ask, can you identify the eye traps in these pictures? What could you do to alter them? But maybe it's not what you're wearing. Maybe it's that little eye twitch thing you do. Like, the spasm of the muscle in the eye, but they consider that winking, and only whores wink. Yeah, you can't wink. It's a very whorish thing to do. And, quote, those who fall to her whoredom are stripped of resources and vibrancy of life. And what do whores get? Crabs. Crabs. Quote, the public lice, often called the crab, is only one of several parasites which can be transmitted through immorality. I mean, the logic is sound. If you have the genetic makeup of a russet potato, they've also said some other controversial things, such as the abortions in America right now, there's currently a baby holocaust. Bill Gothard states, the one who has made porn popular in America has done more damage to America than 100 Hitlers. Ginger Duggar has since left IBLP and denounced Bill Gothard's teachings, and she says, I was in the very back row of a 15-passenger van and somebody turned on Christian worship music, and I was like, this is the day we all die. And I was crying in the back seat of a car. Like, that's how shook up I was over it. Jill says that whenever she wore pants, that was seen as a small act of independence, and quote, anyone who is making decisions for themselves that the parents don't give their blessing, that is seen as rebellious. One former member of the IBLP says girls were taught that boys were almost unable to control their lust. It was our responsibility to help them control it by dressing modestly, and if we didn't, we just got what we had coming to us. One victim of IBLP says that when a man shows up in your life and decides he wants you, it's not up to you to say no. If you don't want him back, you have to come to terms with it, because this is surely what God wants for you. Dangerously, the wisdom booklet teaches that in the event of unfaithfulness in the marriage, quote, allow for divorce and or remarriage is basically destroying someone's relationship with Christ and the church. An article on the IBLP's website reads, serve and appeal to your husband. And it gives these like short biblical references, but it reads, you must ask God for a plan on how you can serve your king in order to gain his heart and present your appeal. They talk about a woman named Esther from the book. It was from the place of service that Esther was able to make her appeal. As she served the king, she gained his attention. He was now ready to listen to her heart. And whoever is writing this article is a woman, and she writes, this area is a challenge for me. I tend to serve my children before my husband. To be honest, most of the time I'm so busy that my home becomes like a self-service gas station for everyone, which isn't good. Once again, ask the Lord what you can do to serve your husband as Esther did. Ladies, fast, pray, cry out to the Lord, surrender to him, and serve your husband. Now, the mind-boggling aspect of this is it's written under an article focusing on what to do if your husband is not sorry for having an affair. Or in IBLP speak, quote, what can I do if my husband is not repentant over moral failure? I mean, clearly this is not a safe space for women, with one former member saying, there was never, hey, what do you want? It was always, God wants this, and if you don't like it, you need to submit and be broken. People ask me why I stayed. I was isolated with no one to help me leave. I was brainwashed into believing God would hurt me if I didn't do everything I was told to do. And unfortunately, Bill Gothard has been accused of SA by like 30 women. And I could just do another multi-part series on Bill Gothard, because
He's still.
he has stepped down from the IBLP church, but I don't know how much money he made off with. At one point, IBLP was like a $90 million institution. But with that said, I mean, some Duggars have remained religious, but just not following Bill Gothard. Others have spoken up. Some have been vocal. Others have found themselves in other scandals of their own. So I'm just going to run you through the major scandals. Jaina ends up getting charged with child endangerment. Nobody knew what was going on. There were all sorts of theories circulating, because now Duggar and child endangerment, it seems synonymous with one kind of thing. And Jenna makes an online statement. I'm only sharing this because the media has been having a field day with it all. The raw facts. I was babysitting a few months ago when one of the children wandered outside alone. A passerby who saw the child called the police. This resulted in a written citation as well as a follow-up with child welfare, who concluded that it was an accident and the child was unharmed. They recognized it was a case of a child slipping out of the house when you turn your back for a moment. It all happened so quickly. It was so scary. I'm grateful for law enforcement and those who protect and serve our community. I was certainly never arrested like some may have implied. In the end, I was just upset at myself that this happened at all. But so thankful it all ended safely, and that's truly what mattered the most to me. Then you have Jill and Derek. They have been the most outspoken about the Duggar family and everything that they've been through. They've also had their fair share of critics online. They went through a missionary phase where a lot of people said that they just like kind of played white savior. So they would go into different countries and they recount stories of how they would treat their bathroom as the safe room. And there's this one incident where they hear this huge metal clinking. They rush Jill into the bathroom. Derek is ready to fight. Jill is messaging her family to pray. Turns out a shower rack fell down. But you know, it could have been one of the terrifying POCs out there. Basically.
What is happening?
Okay, this is maybe like the nuance of it is lost. Because I grew up in a church that would do missions. And a lot of it just turns into Americans going into countries, typically in South America, Central America, and then acting terrified for their godforsaken lives, even though they are the ones that wanted to go there in the first place, but they're acting so terrified, like, oh my God, how can I be here? My life is at risk. And then they're saving people at the same time. I don't know how they do that. How do you be so terrified of the country that you're going into and then save people at the same time who don't even need to be saved? Okay.
Okay, that makes sense. I get it now.
Yeah, so like all these stories that they're sharing is really riling people up because it's like, you were that dramatic over a shower rack that fell down?
Yeah.
Like, what were you expecting? POCs to break in and what? What? Like, what is the stigma that you have in your head? What are they gonna do? They also like do multiple episodes where they go on missionaries and they just talk about they're terrified for their lives, like they could die at any moment. And I'm like,
Right.
are you like, what's happening? Derek is also deeply, deeply transphobic. I don't know if that's present, past, but he was to a very high degree. He literally targeted a young 16-year-old girl, a transgender girl named Jazz Jennings, stating, transgender is a myth, gender is not fluid, it's ordained by God. A lot of people have their flappers gasted by that tweet, because technically you could argue that God is a myth. I'm not saying that's what I think, I'm just saying read the room a little before you start tweeting some weird nonsense. He also just like continues to bully and misgender Jazz Jennings for no apparent reason other than being a giant transphobic person. Also, I will say, as someone who grew up in the South in a very religious area, going to church all the time, I can to some degree have some level of understanding for people who grow up in these bigoted spaces that then believe these things because they are instilled with fear and all of these other tactics to manipulate children at a young age to believe these things until they become an adult. But I just don't think he was 28 bullying a 16-year-old girl. Like, this is not like he's 16 and talking to other kids his age. He was 28 years old bullying a 16-year-old girl. He also stated that Planned Parenthood was a hate group, and he celebrated a baker who refused to make a wedding cake for a gay couple.
They're all on Twitter?
Yeah.
Wow.
He hasn't necessarily apologized formally, but they've kind of like in subtle ways walked back a lot of their views. They've stated that they have a ton of friends now who are not Christian and are even part of the LGBTQ plus community.
Just because you disagree with someone that you can't be friends.
I hate that. I hate that so much. Why are you disagreeing about someone else's existence? Like, you shouldn't have an opinion. Like, what does that mean? Like, I disagree that you're a real person? That you can't do that. It's just not rooted in logical. Anyway, they also start saying that, well, everyone's a sinner anyway, because ultimately we're all sinners. So I don't know if you can really call that. Like, they're standing firm that being gay is kind of a sin, so there's a lot to unpack there. Yeah, and like I said, I think with a lot, maybe of the younger Duggars, it's easier to give not leeway, no excuses, but I think they're too damn old. Like, you could argue, well, I grew up in this type of situation where this was normalized. You're too damn old to be doing this. Like, especially with the internet these days, get online, watch a video, go help yourself, get a therapist. You're so damn weird. Jessa, there is a situation on Instagram where she had posted where she went to the Holocaust Museum. Within 200 words, she's able to express that the Holocaust Museum was depressing and sobering, which everybody agrees with. But then she goes on to somehow state that racism is because of evolutionary theory, and she ignores the fact that the Holocaust was the result of a deeply Christian nation, but then turns it around to say that we need to be the voice for those who cannot speak up, hashtag pro-life. Then it's revealed. So because, and you know what, I think there's just so much with the Duggars. Like, there are some people who have a level of understanding for them because maybe they also grew up in very strict religious environments where this was taught to you, and so you almost go down that route. But I think as an adult, there's really no excuse to self-educate. But also, when you are so vocal, you're gonna get thrown back at you. Like if you're throwing shit at other people, you better expect it's gonna get thrown back at you. And this is why this becomes a whole topic. So it is uncovered that Jessa underwent a medical procedure, which is called a DNC. And if you want to be very technical in the medical sense, it is technically an abortion. Jessa and Michelle have made some really offensive comments comparing abortion to the Holocaust, calling it the baby Holocaust. And Jessa has responded online writing, women have DNCs for many reasons, not all of which involve killing a living human being. My baby's heart had stopped beating 3 weeks before I had a DNC. Each person is created in the image of God, Genesis 1:27, and to purposefully destroy a baby in the womb is an affront to the God who created that life. There's a world of a difference between someone dying and someone being killed. To equate one to the other, and to a mother grieving the loss of her baby no less, is severely distasteful. There is a world of a difference between a mortician and a murderer. Even a child understands the difference between the two. So a lot of people started dragging her about the DNC, and I mean, I don't know, you could just argue like, oh, should we have come at a woman in her time of grief, of losing a fetus, or she kind of deserved it? I don't know, it's up to you. And then Ginger and her husband Jeremy have come out publicly against Bill Gothard, and they have joined a different denomination in Christianity that some also liken to a cult, with a lot of people believing that Ginger traded in one cult for another. Her husband has also gotten into a little bit of trouble. He is an ex-soccer player with a criminal history. He was drunk and he tried to assault a cop. He was not successful, so the officers were like, you're drunk, get your shit together, and then he grabbed one of the cop's arms in a forceful manner. He was arrested. Like, he's now like a pastor, and he says very weird things like, there's a reality show about a family in California, or something, and they've got all these kids, and whatever. It's a show. But one of the little boys was 5 years old and decided he didn't want to be a boy anymore, but now he really wants to be a girl. And so the parents say, okay, well, if you're a girl, you're a girl. So they go along with it. Well, that is a sign that the child is ruling. The child is. The parents have no discipline over the child, or no instruction of what's wrong and right. It's just whatever you feel, you do. And now you've got a child who's barely come to the cognitive understanding of the world the last couple of years, determining that how they were created is wrong. And they're going to redo that. How do you lead as a parent then? He says, quote, biblically mandated discipline has absolutely no physical consequence to the child, and it's to drive the foolishness from them, and it's called abuse in our day. He also goes on to like do a whole weird Instagram video about Kanye's new album, Jesus is King. He says he listened to the whole album and he saw messages from people saying like, oh, well, Jesus would never save Kanye because Kanye is still the same filthy sinner that he's always been, which he believes is wrong because Jesus forgives all. Jedediah, this one right here. He runs for office in Arkansas State Representatives, 2020 standard platform. He's just like pro-life, pro-gun, pro-religion. In his Vote For Me video, he says,
hello, District 89, this is Jed Duggar, running to be your next state representative. I will fight for sound economic policies, push for more tax relief for all our candidates, and advocate for conservative values. I'm a Christian and I will stand up for religious liberties. I'm pro-life and I will be an advocate for the unborn, and I will always defend our Second Amendment. With your prayer, support, and help, I look forward to serving you as a strong conservative voice in Little Rock.
They wipe the floor with him. He goes up against a Democrat, Megan Godfrey, and this is, like, Arkansas is usually, the parts they're from are very conservative and mostly Republican. I mean, Megan Godfrey flipped her seat Democratic, and I think it was like 20 years that a Republican held that seat. She flipped it for the first time in 20 years. Yeah.
How so?
She's just
really good.
fucking competent. She's like a PhD. She has a master's degree. I think she was a teacher. She just knows what she's talking about. And you know what he does to this accomplished woman? He calls her liberal princess, and he starts doing all these ads of like, are we really gonna vote for liberal princess over here? And then, so the Democrats are like, hey, bunk bed Jed, why don't you shut the fuck up? So they call him bunk bed Jed because as he's running for office, he's still sharing a bunk bed with his brother.
Jeremiah?
I don't know if it was Jeremiah, but it was somebody.
What?
Yeah. And he knows nothing about anything. It's like empty up here. So, yeah. And then in 2026, like a few months ago, Anna Duggar has finally come back online. So she
Anna
was
Duggar?
Largely gone from the public eye after Joshua Duggar's arrest and conviction later in 2022, she is now breeding golden retrievers in her backyard and posting on social media again. Netizens don't really know how to feel about her. Some people think, again, you're too damn old to be doing this and you have children. And I will say, it is always a parent and not a mom, and I think it's always thrust upon the mom, but it is also a dad's duty. It is always a parent's duty to protect their own children. So that type of criticism, I think, is warranted. But some people are just conflicted on whether they despise or not Anna Duggar. One comment reads, I just think this is all around sad. Maybe even a bit tragic in regards to Anna. Like, she married this guy so young, and I remember the courting and early marriage stuff, and she was just so happy, and it was cringy and culty and weird. But there she was, marrying into fundamentalist Christian royalty and getting away from her family. She was really all in on this. She believed in this. She was excited for this. The only time these girls get to feel special in their lives is when they court, marry, and have babies. And now what does she have to show for it? What can she do, choking on the Kool-Aid as much as she is? Now, with all these kids, she is utterly and helplessly dependent on the Duggars. When you're that brainwashed, there's no moment when the penny drops and you're free. Freedom can also suck. It's unfamiliar, scary, and expensive. People also believe the Duggars will do everything they can to make her stay. They'll put so much pressure on her until she's metaphorically pinned to the ground and paralyzed by the crush. Anna is responsible for protecting her children, but tragically means something different to her than to us. It's likely Anna believes it is her fault for not being joyfully available, and that at least with the Duggar Empire's help, she can clothe and feed her children. And even when Joshua Duggar comes out, he will not be able to have unsupervised visits with any minor children, including his own. We don't know if that's why she's staying, or if she generally just still loves Joshua Duggar.
Jeremy, when he comes out, none of them will be minors.
No, they will. So she gave birth to Madison during the trial, yeah.
Oh, how long he get? He gets 13?
12.
12. Oh, that's right.
Yeah, 12 and a half.
Wow, that is actually crazy.
Yeah. And then, it happens again. March 18th, 2026, Joseph Duggar is arrested. And everybody loses their mind. I think, in 2015 when this was happening with Joshua Duggar, and then later in 2021, I think most of this news, it did become mainstream news, but it really stayed within this Duggar universe of people who religiously followed the Duggars, and I don't mean that pun intended. But with this 2026 arrest, people are starting to feel like, okay, there is something very nefarious happening, maybe not even just in this family, but in the IBLP. People need to look into everything. The charges stem from events that allegedly happened in 2020. It is alleged that in 2020, during a family vacation in Panama City Beach, Florida, Joseph allegedly repeatedly suggests that this 9-year-old girl sit on his lap.
Who's this?
We don't know. Some people have made guesses. I would not. Yeah. He had her sit next to him on the couch, covered her with a blanket, and rubbed her thighs and grazed her private parts. She finally tells her dad about it as a 14-year-old girl. So in 2026, she's like, Dad, this is what happened to me. Her father confronts Joseph, and he confesses, allegedly, to the dad. And this is when the dad calls the police. The police are like, call Joseph again and have him admit it while we're listening. Allegedly, he acknowledges his actions once more. The next day, he is arrested. This comes as a huge shock to most people because Joseph has always been known as the quieter, nicer brother. He was relatively low-key up until all of this. He's also publicly condemned his older brother Joshua for his actions. On the family website, Joseph's page just reads, I recently finished my real estate broker's license and I've enjoyed getting to work in the real estate industry. We've also been building houses to sell. I love getting to work outside with my hands. So people are like, what is happening? And I think it's so reminiscent of the crimes that Joshua Duggar committed against his own sisters that people are starting to wonder what's going on. Does everybody just know that this is a thing that's happening? And then Jim Bob's previous remarks about how this is a lot of families go through this. So a lot of people online are speculating if Joseph's wife, Kendra, knew what was going on. And if she did, why didn't she turn him in? And a lot of people who have been following the Duggar universe, I guess, they have been pinpointing when Kendra had stopped posting online on Instagram, she took a break, and people are wondering if maybe she took a break around that time in 2020, 2021 because of everything that was going on in her private life. Maybe she found out about it then. But if she found out about it then, why didn't she go to the police? Is it the same thing that Jim Bob and Michelle Duggar have been doing where they don't go to the police for crimes against children? And alarmingly, they have 4 children together. And then 2 days after Joseph Duggar's arrest, Kendra Duggar is arrested. And And people are like, okay, that means she knew about it, right?
What's going on?
She's actually arrested for a completely different charge. 4 counts of child endangerment and false imprisonment. Initially, there was some relief that she was not arrested for similar crimes as Joseph Duggar or for participating or co-conspiring to let him get away with it, but it's bad. Locks were found on the outside of the children's bedrooms' doors. That is the
That's
safeguard.
what Bob did, right?
Yes.
On
Yeah.
TLC.
Yeah.
On the TV show.
Well, not on the TV show, but he did that to...
Prevent Josh.
Yes. So she had that. And that leads a lot of questions and people...
Why?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because it's not safe, and it's illegal, actually. That's why she's arrested, because in the event of a fire, I mean, you can't lock your kids in a room.
Right. Is that the only thing they found?
So far. So far, it sounds presumptuous, like I'm insinuating she's committed other crimes, just... Yes.
But how did that even come about? Because
They searched his house.
Oh, and then they found locks.
Yes.
So she got arrested for that.
Both of them have been released from custody. Both of them are not allowed around their children. Joseph's next court date is April 20th. Kendra's is April 29th. And a little bit about Kendra before we get into the jailhouse calls, okay? Kendra is the daughter of a pastor. She's 1 out of 9 children. Her dad in 2014 distributed pamphlets claiming that there are no such things as homosexuals. And when people are like, why the hell did you do that? He said that it was merely him trying to spread love. I don't know what his definition of love is. And also, during Kendra and Joseph's wedding, Kendra's dad just keeps telling Kendra that she reminds him so much of his wife, aka Kendra's mom. And it was just like so repeatedly, not the sweet, like, oh, you have your mother's eyes. But like, why do you keep saying that? It was just weird. They have 4 children together that Kendra is not allowed to see right now. And then all of this is just blowing up in March of 2026. And then it gets crazier because emails and jail calls are released. In emails between Joseph and his family members, Anna Duggar, Joshua Duggar's wife, makes an appearance. She lets Joseph know that they're all praying for him and that she deposited money into his commissary account. And then, quote, just remember, don't talk about anything legal unless you're with an attorney. Everything said in these messages, phone calls, and video chats are recorded and turned over to prosecutors. Joshua's experience at Washington County Jail was fairly safe. Anna talks about Kendra writing an email to Joseph. She loves you so much, and she was strong during our call, except when she mentioned it would be a month before she could see the kids. My heart aches for all of you. I believe she will prevail in the end. It may just take some time. Kendra is an extraordinary woman. God's grace shines through her. She is truly a treasure. Praying for you. Love ya, Anna.
Is Anna the only one?
No, a lot of other people are writing emails.
Like family members?
Mm-hmm. Kendra is writing emails.
That is crazy because your husband committed these crimes and here's Joseph who's potentially, like how could you?
Yeah, I think the terrifying thing is it's become so normalized in certain communities that doing this, okay, for Joshua, it was normalized of natural curiosity of a young boy. I don't know what logic they're using for Joseph. But this is truly just another way that certain communities, and I'm not saying all fundamentalist Christians or anyone with faith-based religion, I'm just saying there are certain groups of people that will use religious text and genuinely good faith-based findings to just victimize women and children, and that's it. And then in another email, Anna Duggar writes to Joseph, I'm praising God that we started getting closer to you guys within the last year and a half. He knew that Kendra was going to need help. We will and are helping her.
What?
Yeah. Jim Bob is emailing Joseph. Joseph, I'm so sorry for what you're going through. Mom and I love you very much. Looks like you have a long road ahead of you, but God will get you through. You have made some terrible decisions, but God has already forgiven you if you have asked him. You are just going to have to accept this situation at this point, and it's also fine to pray that God would have mercy on you, but you're probably going to face major consequences for several years to come. And he also insinuates that he should make lemonade out of lemons. Then there are phone calls between Joseph and Kendra Duggar where Kendra tells him that she has an attorney for her. And, he also has an attorney. He complains that he's been in solitary confinement. He's not really sleeping well through the night, but it's good to hear Kendra's voice.
So you're doing okay? I'm trying to keep my spirits up, and I feel like reading the Bible has really been helpful to calm. And
these phone calls is so odd. It's just odd.
Is it like just feels illegal to hear that?
No, it's just the way they talk. Okay, so first of all, I can't imagine anyone talking to their spouse who has been charged with a crime like that in the way that Kendra is talking to Joseph. And it feels so distant and formal.
You think that's how they usually talk?
I think so. He is giving her religious advice. And she's like, praise the Lord. And I'm like, what the fuck is happening, everyone?
Yeah. What is he saying? Like,
He's like how he's reading Psalms and it's really getting him through. They have like a light moment where they talk about how Kendra mentions multiple times that she can't eat, she can't stomach anything. Everyone is worried about her because she can't eat and she needs energy, but like she just can't eat and she's frail and she's weak, right? And Joseph Duggar does not give a flying fork about Kendra Duggar. I'm just gonna say that right now, and I hope Kendra is listening to people that are telling her that too, because he almost sounds annoyed that she keeps mentioning this. He's like, what you gotta eat? I was reading Psalms. Bring up, and he's just like, yeah, I'm having a hard time eating too. Joke about how they're both gonna lose weight, and they're like, haha. Kendra says that she's being taken care of by Joseph's family, and quote,
I just sometimes start crying because I know God's been so good. I've been writing down some of the things that I'm thankful for that, you know, we've gotten to do. Like I was thinking about our vacation we got to do as a family and our trip before, and so I was trying to write down
all of that today too.
he keeps preaching to her about how to listen to God, let God's voice take over, and read the book of Psalms. Yeah, and she says that she's just like, yeah. And there is this point that people have a lot of people online have brought it up, but she says that she's working through the list that he gave her on his iPad, and she's trying to coordinate how to get his phone out of custody, because when you get booked into jail, they take it into custody so that she can go through his phone. So a lot of people are concerned that she's trying to delete evidence. Further jail conversations talk about how she's getting passwords, I'm assuming to like banking and business stuff, but they could be the same thing, they could be different things, we don't know. But a lot of people, I think, just from the recollection of what happened with Joshua, there's concern that something is happening there. Yeah. But nothing is as blasphemous as Joshua Duggar's statement through his attorney when Joseph Duggar is arrested. The attorney says that Josh said that the allegations against Joseph have deeply saddened him, and that Joshua understands the stigma of being accused. He lives with the painful reality of how false accusations can destroy a life. He understands how the targeting of a person for publicity can twist the truth into sensationalized fiction. Calm down. You are not that famous. You are not targeted. And that is currently where we are with the Duggars. We're waiting for their court dates later in this month. We're just gonna see where we go from there.
it could be really, really bad, right? Like,
Yeah.
I find it a little shocking that Kendra is just like arrested. Yes, it is very bad that you are locking, but I feel like if Kendra could have been like, oh no, Joseph put the lock on or something. I don't know. What do you think it made them charge her that quickly? Do you feel like there's more things?
No, I think.
You think that's it? There's the lock on the door.
Yeah, I think you would charge both parents immediately, because it's just like that illegal.
Right. Okay.
You know, I mean, I think maybe because.
That is true.
Yeah.
Why would they do something like that? So abnormal.
Because I mean, my sister even had to watch out for the locks in the door when the kids were young, because they would lock themselves in a room. So to have a lock outside the room is just.
Okay, right. So what's going like?
Yeah,
I guess
something's
it's like
going on.
something's going on in this house.
Yeah, and it's not safe. Like you cannot be alone. Like Kendra cannot be alone with her kids anymore. I don't even think she can see her kids right now until April 29th. I think there will be another judgment, but something really dark is going on. And I imagine that it was not Because, you know, like maybe you could argue there's like a log that logs from both sides. I'm imagining it was like very clear as day for the officers what that log was.
Who else wrote letters or emailed Joseph and Kendra in the family? Do you know?
It was mainly them. A lot of the others have spoken out. I mean, interestingly enough, Jill said that she learned about Joseph's arrest through the media. She did not know from her parents. And so a lot of siblings have spoken out publicly that they are condemning what Joseph has done.
Oh.
Or some of them have given slightly more PR-friendly remarks of like, you know, victims, my heart breaks, can't believe it, but like not definitive like, oh my God, fuck that guy, my brother, you know.
So Anna is supporting.
Yeah. Jim Bob, Michelle, and Kendra is very much supporting her husband in this.
Interesting.
A lot of people are having a hard time swallowing all of this, and I think there will probably be more that comes out as time passes, but what are your thoughts on this case? I feel that the Duggar family their arrest recently has caused a lot more eyes into even the past of all the Duggar family members. And I think it's just, there's such a high barrier of entry to get to know the family's entire digital footprint and lore, because there's just so much information out there. And all of that information, I mean, I was even scared to research this case because with a case like this, of course, you're going to have opinions from people who grew up parasocially with the family or people who have grown up in similar conditions. And it's just a lot of even ideological viewpoints that you have to sift through to get to the root of like who these people even are. And it was just like a tremendous amount of content out there. But one netizen comments, is 19 Kids and Counting the name of the show or the Sun's rap sheets? So with that being said, that is where I leave you with part 4.